Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the FCCJ Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan. My name is Ilgin Yorulmaz. I'm the second vice president of FCCJ and co-chair of its Freedom of the Press Committee. This event is being live streamed, so please turn off your mobile phones or keep them in silent mode. Please also keep your mask on, especially when commenting or asking questions. The FCCJ Freedom of the Press Awards recognize outstanding journalists and media organizations that have made important contributions to upholding the values of a free press in the region. These organizations and individuals often work under extreme pressure, pursue taboo subjects, and often risk their lives while doing so. Tonight, we are honored to have 5 distinguished laureates online and in person, who have been chosen as award winners for the Asia Pacific and Japan from among candidates nominated by our members. I would like to invite Svendrini Kakuchi, the FCCJ president, to say a few words to open the ceremony, please.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan. Thank you, Ilgin. I am Svendrini Kakuchi and the president this year. The Freedom of the Press Award for the Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan is actually a landmark in our activities and has been since the club was launched in 1945 after Japan lost World War II. Japan's new constitution, of course, has a complete freedom of the press, freedom of expression, and which is a pillar of Japan's democracy. Of course, the interpretation of democracy is what our award singles out, and our distinguished winners today will talk about their struggle and their fight and their victory to bring the meaning of the freedom of the press in Japan and globally. I'm actually from Sri Lanka and been in Japan for a long time, but as you know, in Sri Lanka, the freedom of the press has, as in many other parts of Asia and the world, has really taken a downturn. And journalists are fighting every day to be able to report freely and against corruption. So before I go any further, I will give the floor so that we can have the winners to talk to us and give the Foreign Correspondence Club the very meaning that we were started for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Drini. The first award of the evening is the FCCJ Freedom of the Press Asia Award. It's given to any individual or media organization committed to free speech, free exchange of information, and a free press fighting against censorship and information control. Freedom of Press Asia Award 2022 goes to Hong Kong journalists. Hong Kong, once a bastion of press freedom, has fallen from 18th place in 2002 to 80th place in the 2021 Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index. The People's Republic of China, for its part, has stagnated at 177th out of 180 countries. In June 2021, Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, used the national security law as pretext to shut down Apple Daily, the territory's largest Chinese language opposition newspaper, and prosecute at least 24 journalists and press freedom defenders. 13 of those are still detained or in jail, including the Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai, who is serving a 20-month sentence for attending unauthorized pro-democracy protests and is facing a possible life sentence. In December of the same year, independent media outlet Stand News has announced it has shut down following the arrest of 6 current and former members of its team. 4 of them were later released on bail, while its former editors, Patrick Lam and Chung Pui Quen, are being kept in custody until the trial. Just 2 weeks ago, Alan Au, a third journalist and contributor to Stand News, was arrested and released on bail. Finally, the extent of the national security law is such that, in a sad development yesterday, our sister organization, the Foreign Correspondence Club of Hong Kong, has had to suspend its annual Human Rights Press Awards this year due to the concern of crossing red lines, as they put it, and taking legal risks of possibly violating this law. Tonight, we are pleased to have Mr. Ronson Chen, the chairperson of Hong Kong Journalists Association, joining us online to accept the FCCJ Freedom of the Press Asia Award on behalf of all the Hong Kong journalists and those across Asia risking their lives to report the truth. Mr. Chen, if I may ask you to say a few words, please.
Thank you, the host and chairperson of FCCJ. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to give my speech here. Hong Kong journalists are kind, passionate, and tenacious, and honesty. I'm the least qualified person to represent them. Although the environment changed, most of us have remained in our position and try our best to find truth and truth for the Hong Kong community. 2021 Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa said in her speech, "Without facts, you can't find the truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without trust, we have no shared reality, no democracy, and it becomes impossible to deal with the existential problems of our times, climate, coronavirus, now the battle for truth." I believe most of you have heard what happened in Hong Kong in recent years. Just yesterday, we've got some sad news from the Hong Kong Foreign Correspondence Club, which canceled their Human Rights Press Awards at the last minute, saying that they fear legal risks. Yes, we are in a tough environment and journalists may need to sacrifice more to achieve more. I still believe that Hong Kong journalists still persevere in whichever way they can. Thank you for this award, and please keep us in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. We now have an interpreter, Mary Joyce. Please, the interpretation into Japanese.
はい、では
Thank you.
今の受賞スピーチを通訳させていただきます。皆様、ここでお話しできることを非常に光栄に思っております。正直、私は香港の多くの親切で有能で熱心なジャーナリストの中で、その代表する資格が最もない人物であるというふうに私は個人的に思っております。環境そのものが変化をしていますが、私たちはほとんどまだそのジャーナリストというポストに立って、香港の社会の真実とそして事実を追求し続けております。2021年のノーベル平和賞を受賞されたマリア・レッサ氏は、受賞の演説の中で次のように述べられました。事実がなければ真実もない。真実もなければ信用ができません。信用のない世界には共有する現実も民主主義もありません。私たちの時代に存在する課題である気候、そしてコロナウイルスなど、そして事実のための戦いに対処することは真実がなければ不可能です。ここにいらっしゃる皆様、香港で最近起きていること、その出来事、よく理解されていると思います。また昨日、香港の外国特派員協会から非常に悲しいニュースがあり、その人権賞を中止したということでした。私たちはまだ困難な環境の中にはおりますが、ジャーナリストの多くは達成するためにはやはりもっと多くの犠牲も払うことになるかもしれません。私たち香港のジャーナリストはこれからも街に奉仕するために努力を続ける用意があるというふうに信じております。本日はこのような機会ありがとうございます。そしてお祈りの中で私たちのことを忘れないでください。以上です。
Thank you. Our next award is the Asia Honorable Mention, and to present it, I would like to invite Isabel Reynolds of Bloomberg. She is the FCCJ Secretary and a member of the Freedom of the Press Committee. Please, Isabel.
Thank you, Ilgen. My name is Isabel Reynolds. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg News and a member of the FCCJ board. The honourable mention this year goes to the Russian publication Novaya Gazeta. When we held the Freedom of the Press Awards last year, I felt that it was almost a uniquely horrible year for journalism. I had no idea at that time what was going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. And while the world has been very shocked at what's happened in Ukraine with the violence, I think almost as shocking is what we see in the withholding of information from people in Russia. So we felt we should express our admiration for the Novaya Gazeta journalists who have so bravely continued to do their jobs in a frightening situation. We'd like to welcome online Pavel Kasigin of Novaya Gazeta to accept the award. I hope he's there.
Are you online, Pavel? Can you hear us? Hello? Can you hear us, Pavel? Can you hear us, please? Okay. Pavel Kanigin is going to accept the award on behalf of Novaya Gazeta, but we'll come back to him. I think he's not online, or... Yes, okay, we'll come back to Pavel. Next, I want to move to Japan Award, which will be presented by David McNeil, who is one of the co-chairs of the Freedom of the Press Committee. Yes, David.
Thomas Ash, who's sitting there in the front, is a Tokyo-based American director whose award-winning documentaries have focused on often hard-hitting issues that are neglected by the mainstream media. His In the Grey Zone from 2012 and A2BC from 2013 looked at children affected by the 2011 nuclear accident in Fukushima. Sending Off in 2019 is a remarkable documentary exploring death and dying. Thomas also served as an executive producer of Boys for Sale, which is about male sex workers in Tokyo. His latest work, Ushku, which some of you may have seen, takes viewers deep into the psychological and physical environment inhabited by foreign detainees in one of the largest immigration centers in Japan. The documentary world premiered at the Nippon Connection Film Festival in Germany, where it won the 2021 Nippon Docs Award. It went on to win the Audience Award at Camera Japan in the Netherlands and the Asian Perspective Award at the DMZ International Documentary Festival in South Korea. This is the narrator comment. In his documentary Ushku about immigration issues and detention in Japan, Thomas conveys the inhumanity of the current system and the immense damage it causes to vulnerable immigrants and asylum seekers. He is this is my comment, he is one of the most conscientious and committed journalists I know. He spends a great deal of time researching and making his movies and must overcome considerable obstacles to bring them to the screen. He chooses subjects that are often avoided by others. He is a truly worthy winner of the freedom of the press. Thanks.
Thank you, David. And please, Thomas, if we may have you here at the head table to get your award. David. Here.
Send you back and forth.
Yes. Yes, if we may hear a few words from you, Thomas. Yes.
When David McNeil, co-chair of the Freedom of the Press Committee, wrote to me to say that I had been awarded the 2022 Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan Freedom of the Press Award, he ended his mail with a question. Will you accept?
報道の自由委員会共同委員長のデイビッド・マクニール氏から突然のメールいただいたとき、私が2020年の日本外国特派員協会報道の自由賞を受賞したというお知らせという内容でした。そしてその手紙は、この栄誉ある賞を私が受けるかどうかについてという、その言葉で締めくくられていました。
After praying about it for a few minutes, I began to write my reply. Dear David, thank you so very much for your mail and for this great honor. However, I'm afraid I cannot accept it.
このメールを見て、初めのうちに判断がつきませんでした。数分ほど祈りを捧げ、それから覚悟を決めて返信を書き始めました。マクニールさん、ご連絡いただきありがとうございます。こうした栄誉ある賞に選んでくださった皆様には、まず心から感謝を申し上げます。しかし、大変光栄なことではありますが、私が受賞するに値するか迷い、ご辞退申し上げるべきではないかというふうに思いました。
I do not engage in the work documenting and helping to lift up voices of those marginalized by society in an attempt to gain fame or financial award. And although I understand it is impossible to separate me from the work that I do, it is my desire for the focus to remain on the courageous people who have raised their voices and shared their stories with the world at great personal risk of retaliation and further victimization.
私は社会から切り離され、気づかれずにいる人、弱い立場に置かれている人々を取材し、その声を拾い上げ、多くの皆様に伝えることを務めとして仕事をしてまいりました。こうした仕事に携わる者として、当事者の声こそが一番大切にされなくてはならないと考えてきました。私と私の仕事は切り離すことはできません。しかし、やはり注目されるべきは、報復やさらなる迫害のリスクを負いながらも声を上げ、世界に向けて語ってくださった出演者の皆様だという思いがありました。
But after rereading my reply before sending it to David, I decided to reconsider. If I accepted the award on behalf of those who have so courageously spoken out, it would give me the opportunity to refocus the attention onto the issue at hand, the treatment of refugee applicants and asylum seekers in Japan.
しかし、その書いた返信を読み返し、もう一度考え直しました。勇気を持って声を上げた方々の代わりに私がこの賞をいただくということは、これまで以上にこの問題に目を向けられるのではないかというふうに考えたのです。目の前の問題とは、つまり日本における難民申請者、庇護希望者の現状です。
And so here I am today accepting this award on behalf of those who I believe are its true recipients. The 9 people who raised their voices from inside the immigration detention facility in Ushiku, Ibaraki. The 9 people who represent so many thousands of others who are either indefinitely detained or who are out on provisional release without the ability to work, without health insurance, and without the freedom of movement.
ですので、今日私は本当の受賞者たちに代わってここに参りました。茨城県牛久市にある入国管理センターに収容されながら声を上げてくださった9名の方々、彼らは無期限に収容されている何千人もの方々や、就労資格も健康保険も移動の自由も与えられないまま仮放免されている方々の代表であり、代弁者でもあります。
There's been a strong debate surrounding the use of hidden camera footage in my documentary. But to those who speak out against my decision to break the rules of the detention center that forbid sound and video recording, I ask, why do these rules exist?
私がこのドキュメンタリー作品を隠しカメラで撮影したことについて激しい議論が起こりました。音声や映像の記録を禁ずる入管の規制を破る、私はそう決断しました。この私の決断にためらいを感じるという方に、今一度お考えいただけたらと思います。なぜこのような規則がそもそも必要なのでしょうか。
Article 21 of the Constitution of Japan guarantees the freedom of speech, press, and all other forms of expression.
日本国憲法第21条は言論、出版、その他一切の表現の自由を保障しています。
I believe people in detention have the right to speak out and have their voices heard. And if journalists, activists, and filmmakers had had the freedom to record and share the voices of those in detention, conditions inside these internment camps would never have deteriorated to this extent. In other words, if we had true freedom of speech and true freedom of the press, this film would not have needed to be made.
入管施設に収容されている人々は、表現の自由、言論の自由があり、その声に耳を傾けてもらう権利もあります。そしてジャーナリストや活動家、あるいは映像作家に収容者の声を記録し、共有する自由が行使されていたならば、この強制収容上の状況はここまで悪化しなかったのではないでしょうか。言い換えれば、もし私たちに本当の言論や報道の自由が守られていたのであれば、私はこの作品を作る必要などなかったのです。
In fact, my motivation was not to make a film, but rather as a witness to human rights violations, I felt morally compelled to document evidence in the form of filming the detainees' testimonies, to document the truth.
私の動機は映画作りへの要求ではありませんでした。収容所には収容者の証言をその真実の証拠として撮影するという形で記録しなければならないという危機的状況がありました。こうした状況を目の当たりにし、使命感から来る強い思いで撮影する決断をいたしました。
And here's the truth. In March 2021, after having been detained for 7 months at an immigration center in Nagoya, Wishma Sandamali Ratnayake died. Over the past 15 years, 17 people have died while being held inside Japanese immigration facilities.
そしてその真実とは、ウィシュマ・サンダマリ・ラトヤナケさんが名古屋の入管センターに7ヶ月間収容された後、2021年3月に亡くなりました。過去15年の間で日本の入管施設で17名の方が亡くなっています。これこそが事実です。
Even the basic human rights guaranteed to prisoners in prisons are not extended to refugee applicants. Article 11 of the Constitution of Japan states, "The people shall not be prevented from enjoying all fundamental human rights." And although the Constitution says the people of Japan, the Constitution of Japan, which is based on the universality of human rights and the principle of international cooperation, does also guarantee the fundamental human rights of foreign nationals.
刑務所における受刑者に保障される基本的な人権でさえ、難民申請者には保障されていません。日本国憲法第11条には次のように書かれています。国民はすべての基本的人権を共有を妨げられないということです。憲法の文言には国民はというふうには書いてありますが、人権の普遍性と国際協調主義に立つ日本国憲法は外国人の基本的人権についても保障しています。
We must challenge rules and laws that have been put in place to limit freedom of press. For if we blindly submit to rules and laws that strip our fellow brothers and sisters of their fundamental human rights, we ourselves risk becoming perpetrators of those violations.
報道の自由を制限するために定められた規則や法律には立ち向かわなければなりません。もし仲間たちの基本的人権を奪うための規則や法律に盲目的に従うならば、私たちもまたその暴挙の加害者となってしまう恐れがあるからです。
As I close, I would like to again express my deep gratitude to the participants in Ushiku who have given their consent to have their faces shown, their voices heard, and their stories shared. I am deeply grateful to them for sharing the truth despite the risks. I pray their courageousness and strength will inspire all who witness it to work towards addressing the injustices in Japan's immigration system, which have harmed them and are still harming them today. For their sake, we must keep sharing these stories.
映画「ウシク」に出演し、顔を隠すことなく、自らの言葉で語ってくださった皆様に改めて心より感謝を申し上げます。リスクを負いながらも世界に向けて真実を発信してくださったことに深い感謝の意を伝えたいと思います。その勇気と強さが作品に触れた多くの人々を刺激し、収容された方々を今なお傷つけ続けている日本の入管制度の不正に対し取り組むきっかけになることを祈っております。彼らのために私たちは彼らの物語を語り続ける必要があるのです。
I would like to end with a quote from Nelson Mandela.
最後にネルソン・マンデラ氏の言葉を引用したいと思います。
It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones.
刑務所に入るまでその国の姿は知り得ないと言われています。国の在り方を判断するとき、社会的立場の強い人々の扱い方ではなく、 最も弱い人々の扱い方で判断するべきであります。
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas, for the inspirational speech. Next, we are going to present Freedom of the Press Japan Honorable Mention, and to present it, Eric Johnston, a member of the Freedom of the Press Committee. Will you please come to the podium?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Johnston, and I'm a member of the FCCJ Freedom of the Press Committee. It is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to present this year's FCCJ Freedom of Press Honorable Mention Award for Japan to one of the country's most experienced and distinguished journalists, Mr. Shigenori Kanehira. In his nearly half-century career as a television journalist, Kanehira-san has covered Japan and the world. As a young beat reporter, he followed the Lockheed trial, and in the early 1990s, he became the Moscow bureau chief for JNN, scoring a major international scoop by getting interviews with Mikhail Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin after the brief aborted 1991 coup d'etat. He would later be stationed in the Washington bureau in the early 2000s. Kanehira-san's career includes serving as the chief editor-producer on the late Tetsuya Chikshia's News 23 program, where the two men became particularly close. He would later go on to head the American Bureau of TBS, and he is well known among members of the Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan for his overseas as well as domestic career. Though we did not formally meet, I recall seeing him at an evacuation center in the Mabicho district of Kurashiki, Okayama Prefecture in July 2018, following heavy flooding that hit Hiroshima, Okayama, and Ehime prefectures. Many of the other reporters I saw were much younger than myself, and it was inspiring to see that a veteran journalist like Kanehira-san was still out in the field. Since 2010, Kanehira-san has served as the main newscaster on Hodo Tokushu, and over the past year, Hodo Tokushu's news team has pursued a variety of domestic and international issues, ranging from massive amounts of food waste at the Tokyo Olympics Village to the conditions under which Japan's public school teachers often labor, as well as a report on the massive concrete barriers erected in parts of Tohoku in the wake of 3/11 to prevent earthquakes, but are something of an eyesore and are environmentally damaging. In addition to Japan-based issues, Kanehira-san also recently traveled to Belarus, where he gained an exclusive interview with Vladimir Putin ally Alexander Lukashenko. Dubbed a lone wolf by some of his Japanese colleagues working in the mainstream media, Kanehira-san continues to go his own way, producing Hodo Tokushu and practicing original, in-depth reporting that includes a variety of voices in and outside of mainstream Japanese society. He is something of a trenchant critic of the way that the Japanese television media in particular operates, yet in his writing, one senses a hope still that Japanese television and Japanese television news media will continue to play a vital role in protecting and promoting Japan's democracy. For all of these reasons, FCCJ is proud to present this year's award to Kanehira-san, the Honorable Mention Award. And I believe Kanehira-san is joining us online. So,
Kanehira-san, can you hear us? 聞こえますか?
Yes, I can hear.
Congratulations, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to be selected for the FCCJ's Freedom of the Press Award. I'm currently in Ginowan City in Okinawa Prefecture at Okinawa International University, where I can see air station Futenma. Maybe you can see the Futenma Air Base here. Very noisy. The environment around this university is very, very noisy. Still now, after 7 p.m. Actually, on February 24th, the day Russia's invasion in Ukraine began, I was at Istanbul airport in Turkey. I was waiting at the gate for Turkish Airlines flight to Kiev, departing a little after 7 a.m., but the flight was suddenly canceled. just before that, the full-scale Russian invasion of the Ukrainian territory had begun. Cancellation was unavoidable due to the danger of flying commercial aircraft into the airspace. I had no choice but to head to Bucharest, Romania, and then drive 10 hours by car into Ukrainian territory by land. The border was already full of refugees. Please translate.
はい。この度 FCCJ の報道の自由賞に選んでいただき大変嬉しく思っております。私は今沖縄県の宜野湾市の普天間飛行場が見える沖縄国際大学の中にいます。ちょうどこちらの方でもカメラから見えるかと思うんですけれども、今も夜7時以降でも非常に爆音が聞こえております。私は今こちらの大学で学生たちにジャーナリズムを教えています。先日2月24日にロシアによるウクライナ侵攻が始まったちょうどその日、私はトルコのイスタンブール空港におりました。朝7時過ぎのキーウ行きのトルコ航空便の搭乗をゲートで待っていたところでしたが、突然その便は欠便となりました。まさにその直前にロシア軍のフルスケールのウクライナ領土への侵攻が始まったのです。民間航空機が領空内を飛ぶということは危険なので、欠便は当然のことでした。やむを得ず、ルーマニアのブカレストに向かい、そこから車で10時間かけて陸路からウクライナ領土内に入ったのでした。国境はすでにその時難民であふれていました。
My speech. Last month, I went to Minsk, the capital of Belarus, and interviewed President Lukashenko. The experience of interviewing him was very interesting. At that time, I had to give private instructions to the 6 members of the TBS news feature team arriving from Tokyo. Don't smile unnecessarily during the interview.
先月、私はベラルーシの首都ミンスクに行き、ルカシェンコ大統領にインタビューをする機会がありました。非常に興味深いインタビューを経験することができました。その際、東京から向かった TBS 報道特集のチーム6人に、密かに申し合わせていたことがありました。それは、インタビュー中に不必要な笑顔を絶対に見せないということでした。
Unfortunately, I never smiled. However, the President Lukashenko never smiled either. Throughout the entire interview, I was extremely nervous.
幸い、一度もインタビューの間に笑うことは私もなかったですが、先方のルカシェンコ大統領も笑うことはありませんでした。インタビューの、最中、極度の緊張感がずっと漂っていました。
The day before the interview with President Lukashenko, we tried interviewing random people in Minsk city. To my surprise, most people openly said, I am against the war. I want Ukraine to do its best. Some said with tears, you can arrest me. I'm against the war. I have not been nearly so moved in recent days as I was by the interviews with the citizens on the streets.
ルカシェンコ大統領のインタビューの前の日、僕らはミンスクの市内で街行く人々にアットランダムにインタビューを試みました。驚いたことに、ほとんどの人が率直に戦争には反対だ、ウクライナ頑張ってほしいと語っていました。中には涙を流しながら逮捕されてもいい、戦争には反対だと語ってくれた方もいました。街頭での市民へのインタビューでこれほど感動した経験は最近あまりありません。
It felt as though I had encountered the little people in Russian language, Maliniki Flyuj, that Belarusian writer Svetlana Alexievich, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature, has always emphasized. We both believe that one of the missions of the journalists is to deliver, record, and preserve the voices of these little people.
ノーベル文学賞を受賞したベラルーシの作家スベットラーナ・アレクシアビッチさんがいつも強調しておられる小さき人々の一端に触れたように感じました。私たちジャーナリストの一つの使命はこうした小さき人々の声を届け記録して残していくことだというふうに信じています。
Once again, I'm very honored to be selected as the recipient of the prestigious FCCJ's award today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
改めて本日は FCCJ の名誉ある賞をいただけたことに感謝をしております。本当にありがとうございました。
Thank you, Kanehira-san. Thank you. And we're going to present your certificates, I believe, to one of your colleagues, I believe. Yes? Chief Editor. ありがとうございます。And finally, last but not least, Freedom of the Press Lifetime Achievement Award is going to be presented by Teddy Jimbo, who is the Professional Activities Committee co-chair at FCCJ and a member of the Freedom of the Press Committee. Please, Teddy.
Thank you, Eugen. The 2022 Freedom of the Press Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Mr. Soichiro Tahara. Tahara-san. Tahara Soichiro-san. I don't think Tahara-san requires any introduction, but since I'm here and there's a script, I'll just read it anyway. Soichiro Tahara is a journalist, political journalist, best known for hosting TV Asahi's Sunday Morning Project, and journalist, critic, newscaster. Tahara-san at 87, represents the best traditions of Japanese watchdog journalism. He became a household name with the TV show Asama de Nama Terebi, and also the Sunday Project, which I have mentioned, which brought the challenging and intelligent political discussions into millions of Japanese homes. Actually, I had the honor of appearing in Tahara-san's Asama de Nama Terebi several times, but I can just tell you, even during the commercial break, he is just talking, and the program goes on for like 4 hours, from 1 a.m. to like 5 a.m. And actually, he's the only one who's talking during the commercial break, and that's who he is. He also has the radio show still running since March 2011, and he has consistently shown himself as a defender of the free media, fending off pressure from the government and the ruling party in the very important and the critical junctures of recent Japanese history. In 2016, he defended press freedom during a landmark press conference at the FCCJ, in which he also singled out the failures of Japanese conventional media or the career journalists to challenge power. And Tahara-san has over 1 million followers on his Twitter, and he's still up and running. He's still hosting that the Asama de Nama Terebi. Actually, the show is on this weekend. 今週末ですよね。今週の金曜日 there's another program on Ukraine situation this Friday night, Saturday morning this week. Anyway, he's the living example and the living legend of the Japanese watchdog journalism, and I'm very proud to present Freedom of the Press Lifetime Achievement Awards to Mr. Tahara.
Thank you. Tawara-san, please.
Do we need translation? Do we need translation?
Not
we,
for
we
the
don't?
LC, just his
We
speech.
don't? Okay.
Yes.
じゃあ、田原さん、what do we do now?
My
Oh, we give him.
田原さんはこっちに、はい、来ていただければ。はい。どうぞ。
よろしくお願いいたします。
どうもありがとうございます。英語もろくろくできない私がこんな立派な賞をいただいて、もう恐縮しております。ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. I'm extremely honored that someone like myself who does not even speak English is awarded such a prestigious honor from the club.
私がジャーナリストになろうと思ったのは、私は実は日本の戦争を知っている最後の世代です。最後の世代としてどうしてもジャーナリストにならなきゃいけないとこう思いました。
The reason, indeed, I decided to become a journalist is that I felt a strong mission as the last generation in Japan who has experienced the war directly. I felt this mission of journalism.
実は小学校の5年生の夏休みに昭和天皇の玉音放送があって日本は戦争に負けました。
It was when I was in the 5th grade of elementary school when there was the declaration of defeat by the Showa emperor at the time, and Japan indeed lost the war.
小学校5年生の後、軍事教練がありまして、1月で私は軍事教練しました。そして、小学校5年生になると、本格的社会科の授業が始まって、先生たちが、この戦争は世界の侵略国である。アメリカ、イギリスを打ち破り、で、ヨーロッパの先進国、アメリカによって植民地にされているアジアの国々を独立させるための正義の戦争で、当時アジアで植民地になったのはタイだけ、あとは全部ヨーロッパ、アメリカの植民地、奴隷なんで、そういうアジアの国々を独立させ解放させるための正義の戦争である。
And for the first 5 years of my elementary school, we received militaristic training, militaristic education during this school. And it was in the 5th year when the more serious social studies education began at our school. And our teachers told us at the time that this war which Japan was waging was to stop this invasion of the United States and the United Kingdom of countries around the world, to prevent these developed advanced countries in Europe from colonizing countries in Asia, to liberate countries from Asia from this European colonization. It was a war for independence, for liberation, a just war. At the time, the only country in Asia, indeed, which was not a colony was Thailand.
私はそれを全く信じてまして、早く大人になって戦争に参加して、天皇陛下のために名誉の戦勝をする、そのつもりだった。ところが夏休みに昭和天皇の玉音放送があって、日本は戦争に負けました。
At the time, I completely believed everything that I was being taught. I wanted to quickly become old enough that I could indeed fight and die in honor for the emperor. However, it was just in the summer of that year when there was the declaration of defeat by the emperor and Japan lost the war.
2学期になって米軍が日本にこうやってきて、占領体制が固まった10月になると、先生たちや偉い人の言うことが180度変わった。
In the second term of school that year, this was then the United States military came to Japan, and it was in October of that year that the occupation regime was more solidly solidified. And what the teachers, what all of the people in charge were saying, completely changed by 180%.
あの戦争は絶対にやってはいけない悪い戦争であった。正しいのはアメリカ、イギリスだ。だから君らも日本を絶対戦争しない平和の国にしなきゃいけない。平和の国になるために頑張れ。さらに1学期までは国民の英雄としてラジオも新聞もみんな褒めたたえた人間たちが2学期になると米軍に次々に逮捕された。逮捕されたら1学期まで褒めたたえたラジオも新聞も彼らは逮捕されて当然である。いかに悪い人間か。ガンガン、つまり1学期と2学期全く違った。この1学期までは国民の英雄としてラジオも新聞も褒めたたえて2学期になって逮捕されて悪いと典型が東条英機。
So they started to tell us, in the first term, they had been telling us that this was a just war that must be waged. But in the second term, they were telling us that this was a war that never should have happened. It was a wrong war. And the United States and the United Kingdom were the countries in the right. These teachers started to tell us then that Japan must never wage war again. It must become a peaceful country. And all of you students, must do your best in order to make it so. The people who in the first term of the year had been praised as national heroes in all of the media and so on, all of a sudden under the US regime were being arrested. The media had been praising them and talking about them all through this first term, and yet in the second term it was taken as for granted that all of these people should be arrested, and that it was the right thing that that was happening. What was being reported about in the news, in the radio, was completely different from term 1 and term 2 in the same school year.
このことが私がジャーナリストになったきっかけでして、だから伝聞推定は全くダメ。だから偉い人の言うこと、それからマスコミ全く信用できない。で、国も国民を騙す。だからジャーナリストになって伝聞推定じゃなくて一時情報を自分が確認し確かめる。これやんなきゃダメだと。だから今ジャーナリストになって、例えば一時情報、政治では総理大臣から自民党の幹事長で、野党の党首も立憲から共産党まで全部あって、とことん聞きます、本音を。で、経済で言えば企業の社長、労働組合の幹部、さらにこの、反企業の運動をやっている運動体、原発もだから原発反対運動から原発推進運動の幹部まで、つまり一時情報を確かめて、そしてその自分で確認する、こういう作業をやってきた。でその結果、今まで総理大臣を3人失格させました。で、そういう偉いのを何人も失格させています。
And this was the very reason which I decided to become a journalism. I knew that you can't just follow what you're being instructed. You cannot believe what you're being told by the people in power. You cannot trust the mainstream media as well. And also that the state fools, the state deceives the people as well. I felt the need to therefore have primary information, primary sources, and to confirm this myself firsthand as well. And it's for this reason that when I am reporting on political issues, I will hear directly from the Prime Minister, from the Chief Cabinet Secretary, but also from all political parties, from the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, from the Japan Communist Party. I will hear firsthand from all of them. When it comes to economic issues as well, I will hear from the Business Federations Association, from the union officials, from people involved in anti-corporation movements and activities. When it comes to the issue of nuclear power, I will hear firsthand from those who are both for and are against it as well. I have throughout my whole career focused or prioritized this, having firsthand primary information and being able to confirm these facts myself, and this is what I have done throughout my entire years as well. As a result, indeed, I have been indeed told off by 3 prime ministers over the years.
今、 ウクライナ戦争が進化する中で、日本でも日本の防衛力を強化しよう、核兵器を持てという意見もあって、私はこれには非常に疑問というよりは危ないと思って。
Now, as the war on Ukraine is developing further in Japan, now there are voices calling for Japan to strengthen its defense capabilities and even to obtain its own nuclear weapons. This is something which I believe, this is not just something that we should question, but it is extremely dangerous.
例えば今、この、西側の日本を含めた諸国では、プーチンはとんでもないやつだ。悪いのはプーチンだと。だからプーチン批判一色になっている。確かに戦争をやったプーチンは悪い。しかし、プーチンが戦争をやるってことは、アメリカをはじめ NATO の国は分かった。なんでプーチンに戦争をさせないように止められなかったのか。これは特にバイデンの責任が大きい。アメリカがそういう気になれば止められたはずだ。で、問題。さらに、この日本が今、軍事力を強化しよう。核兵器を持て。私はこれはとても危ないと思う。例えば、具体的な話します。アメリカのバイデン大統領になった。これまではアメリカ大統領が当選すると、まず米英首脳会議、アメリカ、イギリス、あるいは米仏首脳会議、日本とアメリカの会議は3番手か4番手。今度はいきなりバイデン、菅、つまり米日首脳会議だった。絶対今までなかった。こんなことは。なぜ今回いきなり米日首脳会議になったのか。これを特派員業界なんてちゃんと取材すべきだ。なんでバイデンは今までの前例を破っていきなり日本とやったのか。なぜだと思う？あんた。バイデンってしてるよ。
まず強くいたします。
なんでバイデンが日本の仕事をいきなり会談したんだ。こういうこと特派員業界はやんなきゃ。
まず強くい
これ
たします。
は要するにバイデンが日本にすさまじい期待をしている。バイデンがアメリカの大統領が何に期待してるか。今ウクライナ問題は大変だけど、アメリカにとって大変なのはウクライナじゃない、中国なんだよね。米中の対
田原さん、ちょっとここまでインタープレターの。はい。
So for now, if we look at this situation around Ukraine as well, what is being said in all of the Western countries, in which I include Japan as well, is that Putin is awful, he is the worst, he's responsible for everything, and criticizing only Putin. Yes, of course, it is true that Putin is responsible for this war, and that is something which should be criticized. But at the same time, the United States and NATO were all they knew that this was going to happen as well. Why were they not able to prevent this indeed before it did happen? And I believe that the responsibility of President Biden in regards to this is very grave. The United States could have prevented this war on Ukraine if it had made the efforts to do so. Furthermore, we see these discussions now in Japan of strengthening its defense capabilities or even obtaining nuclear weapons. This is something which is extremely dangerous. I would like to share one concrete example in regards to this. If we look at the US President Biden, until now it has been tradition that when a new United States president comes into the administration, the first summit will be held between the US and the UK, the next perhaps between the US and France. The summit with Japan would always be third or fourth in line. However, this time we saw President Biden meet first of all with Suga as well. The US-Japan summit indeed was the first one to happen there. This is something which has never happened before. Why suddenly indeed did the United States break this precedent and change things this time? And I think that this is something which the FCCJ has the responsibility to thoroughly investigate.
アメリカでは中国が2024年か25年に台湾を武力攻撃する、こう見て、その場合は当然アメリカは台湾を守るために中国と戦わなきゃいけない。ここからと、これ皆さんに取材してほしい。バイデンは本当は中国と戦いたくない。だから中国が台湾を武力攻撃しないような 状態を作ってほしい。これを日本に期待している。です。だから日本がそういう状態を作れるかどうか、大事な問題です。私は作るべきだと思っています。
For the United States, indeed, the greatest threat now is being seen as China, and they see a potential of an armed attack by China on Taiwan, perhaps in the years 2024 or 2025. If that were to be the case, then it would mean the United States having to go to war to fight against China as well. This is something also that I hope the FCCJ will cover thoroughly. But of course, President Biden does not want to fight against China. Therefore, he has these hopes, these expectations on Japan to prevent this happening, to create the kind of environment where China will not conduct an armed attack on Taiwan. It is, of course, a big question as to whether Japan is able to and will indeed do such a thing.
田原さん、
近くバイデンが日本にやってくる。バイデン岸田会談が行われる。このことがテーマになる。以上です。
President Biden is coming to Japan very soon as well, and there will be a summit between President Biden and Mr. Kishida as well. This is also something which I hope you can pay attention to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
以上です。どうも。
I'm sure we all agree we would love to invite you back. Absolutely. Very, very interesting
もし
comments.
質問があったら何でも。
If anyone has any questions, they're open.
Yes, we hope to have some. But before that, Pavel Kanygin, who is receiving the Asia Honorable Mention on behalf of Novaya Gazeta, I hope he is online. Yes, we would like to have him say a few words, please. Pavel, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad and honored to be here with you, and I'm honored that my newspaper was selected to get this award. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President and Vice President of the committee, members of the Foreign Club, as I said, let me thank you again on behalf of the entire newsroom of our newspaper, Novaya Gazeta, and the editor-in-chief, Dmitry Muratov. It is our honor to receive this award from the Foreign Correspondence Club of Japan. And I want to say that in these dark times, it is really invaluable for us to feel support from our global community and from our Japanese colleagues. It helps us feel that we are not alone, and it's very important now. For 2 previous months...
Sorry, may I translate until now? Sorry.
Of course.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
ノバヤガゼータのスピーチを通訳させていただきます。本日本当にありがとうございます。会長、副会長、そして報道の自由委員会の皆様、ありがとうございます。最初にノバヤガゼータの全ニュースルームとドミトリ・ムラトフ編集長を代表してお礼を申し上げたいと思います。日本外国特派員協会からこのような賞をいただき、光栄に思っております。このような暗い時代だからこそ、国際コミュニティからのサポートを感じることは非常に貴重なことです。私たちは一人ではないと感じることができるからです。Please.
For two previous months, 3 people of our country have been living in a nightmare. Those opposing the war became enemies of the state. This expression itself, no war, became a crime if spoken loudly in the public settings. A crime that will bring the regular individual to prison for 3 years and for 15 years if you are a professional journalist.
この2ヶ月の間、ロシアの自由な人々は悪夢の中に生きています。戦争に反対する者は国家の敵となり、戦争反対という表現そのものが公共の場で話すと犯罪になるようにもなりました。一般市民なら3年、ジャーナリストなら15年の刑務所行きになる犯罪です。
The war that is waging Vladimir Putin against Ukraine, the war that is waging by Vladimir Putin against Ukraine, and its own country left awful choice for many of our colleagues. Some of them fled Russia, but most of my colleagues became silent.
今回、ウラジミール・プーチンがウクライナ、そして自国ロシアに対して行っている戦争によって、多くの同業者がひどい選択に迫られています。ロシアから逃れた者もいますが、そのほとんどが今、沈黙するようになってしまいました。
People are scared not only for themselves, but for their loved ones, friends and family members. More and more, the regime reminds us of a Stalin dictatorship era when people live in fear of being persecuted for just for jokes, and when snitching on each other became a new societal norm. Novaya Gazeta did its best trying to deliver through the darkest moments of our history. We don't know whether we will be able to continue running the newspaper in Russia anytime soon. But let me introduce you. Yeah, let me translate it first. Yeah.
Thank you. 人々は自分のためだけではなく、愛する人、友人、そして家族のために恐れています。ますます今の体制は人々が冗談のために訴えられることを怯えて暮らし、互いに密告し合うことが社会規範となったスターリンの独裁時代を思い起こさせます。ノバヤガゼータはこの歴史の中でも最も暗い瞬間でも常に最善を尽くして伝え続けようとしてきました。ロシアでまた活動がいつ続けられるかはまだ分かりません。
So what I said, we don't know whether we will be able to continue running the newspaper, but not long ago, a small team of former Novaya Gazeta's writers launched a new edition, Novaya Gazeta in Europe. With a few colleagues of mine, we also launched a digital multimedia project called To Be Continued, aiming to reach Russian audience on YouTube and Telegram, two huge platforms that the Russian regime is so afraid of shutting down.
それがまだわからないからこそ、最近ノバヤガゼータの元記者からなる小さなチームが新しいノバヤガゼータ in ヨーロッパを創刊いたしました。また私と何人かの同僚とともに To be continued 続編ありというデジタルマルチメディアのプロジェクトも立ち上げました。 YouTube と Telegram というロシアの政権がその閉鎖することを最も恐れている強大なプラットフォームでロシアの視聴者にアプローチすることを目的にしています。
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be delivering our hard-hitting journalism to Russian people as long as we can. If Vladimir Putin doesn't let us work from our country, from within, we will be working from everywhere so that it will be impossible to crack down on our voices. Dear friends, let me tell you that your support is greatly encouraging us. We believe that there is a better future for our country, for Russia and its people of Russia. We hope that with your help and with our help, people see the truth. We are going to bring us. We're going to bring us to this moment as soon as we can. And again, thank you very much.
皆さん、私たちはできる限りロシアの人たちに真実のジャーナリズムを今後も伝えていくつもりです。もしプーチンが私たちの国から仕事をさせてくれないのであれば、私たちの声を取り締まることができないように、あらゆる他の場所からも仕事を続けるつもりです。皆様のご支援が私たちの大きな励みになっていることをお伝えしたいと思います。私たちは自分の国ロシアとその国民のためによりいい未来があるというふうに信じています。皆様の活動、そして私たち自身の活動によって人々が真実を目にすることを願っております。私たちはできるだけ早くこの瞬間を迎えることができるように全力尽くしたいと思います。本日はどうもありがとうございました。
Thank you, Pavel. And this concludes our ceremony. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronson Chan, Mr. Pavel Kanygin, Mr. Thomas Ash, Mr. Shigenori Kanehira, and Mr. Soichiro Tahara for being with us today. And I believe if there's any comments or anything, anybody from the audience wants to add? Yes, Anthony, please. One final remark. Yes, please. Yes.
Should this be interpreted?
4 minutes. 通訳、はい、お願いします。
I just want to say very briefly, congratulations, very sincere congratulations to the Freedom of the Press Committee. I think this has been a very professionally well organised occasion, and quite honestly, it's been inspiring and rather moving at times. And I think, for someone like myself who's been a practicing journalist for over 50 years, it's reminded us of the real importance of journalism and of the integrity and courage or guts, if you like, of some of the people who are practicing it. So, just very briefly, congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
受賞された皆様、そして報道の自由委員会の皆様にお礼、そしておめでとうというふうに申し上げたいと思います。 今回この機会によっても非常に、その刺激も受けながら非常に感動いたしました。私自身も50年以上ジャーナリストとして仕事をしてきましたが、今回の機会、そして今回の受賞者の皆様のお言葉によって、今回そのジャーナリズムの重要性、そして勇気、そして皆様のガッツを思い出すことができました。本日本当にありがとうございます。
ありがとうございました。Thank you. And thank you very much, Mary, also for your interpretation. And this
Thanks, Mary.
Ceremony is adjourned, but we have an Associate Members Liaison Committee happy hour at the main bar from now until, I guess, the night. This ceremony is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
ありがとうございました。